you're having any doubts about your child's motor development, be it fine or gross motor, if you don't want to pour over like developmental checklists and Pinterest accounts, you are in the right place because I've done the work for you. So remember that your child is not going to need every single toy and is not going to need every single perfect activity. What your child needs is a well-rounded environment with a lot of things that interest him and that are fun to him, and a teacher. You're your child's first teacher. So let's jump into motor skills that we expect to see a child developing around 3 to 5 years old. Remember that there is a huge window for development. Pay attention less to the actual age that a child is supposed to be doing things. Try to observe where he's at, what he can do with a little bit of help, and then inch him along. So for gross motor, 3 to 5 year olds are going to be gaining a lot of balance skills, a lot of confidence in moving and jumping and climbing. They're going to be climbing all over play structures and slides and swings. They're going to have such a big variety of ball play, throwing and kicking. They're going to be moving so much without really falling that often. So for fine motor, you're going to see so many skills develop around this age. They're going to be holding writing utensils and eating utensils more and more closely than how you see an adult using them. Of course, they're going to be messy and kind of just experimenting, but more and more you'll see it actually looking pretty good. They're going to be using both hands together more, and you see a lot of crossing over their bodies. So before, if a crayon was in their right hand, they just pick it up and then just draw, and then they'll pick up another one and then draw with that hand on their left. So now you're going to see them reaching over and crossing more, and closer to the age of 5, maybe even 6, that's when we expect like a clear hand dominance. They're going to consistently use the right hand or left hand for certain things. Now, just what you came here for, we're going to talk about toys and just general everyday activities to help your child develop motor skills. Starting with gross motor, this is around the age that we can talk about like balance bikes, balance beams, monkey bars, climbing trees, or maybe just even like tree stumps. They're going to be getting pretty familiar with stairs and jumping off of stuff. So those are the types of activities that I would suggest. What kind of like ramp can they build? You can work a lot on developing gross motor skills with a 3 to 5 year old with a lot of obstacle courses, and they'll get the most benefit out of an obstacle course if they're working on setting it up. This is around the time where they can understand more of how to do animal walks. Instead of just walking somewhere, you can stomp somewhere like a dinosaur. You can march, kind of similar to stomping. They can do bunny hops or frog jumps. They can do wheelbarrow walks. 3 to 5 year olds are capable of starting to learn sports. Now that they're understanding rules a little bit better, they can participate in those type of things with you. And think about, what do you like to do? Do you like to lift weights? Then maybe your little one can be doing some sort of thing like that with you. You just have to be creative and safe. Do you like to do yoga? Maybe instead of trying to steal away from them, you can try to include them in a way, if that sounds fun to you. Whatever you want. I'm just saying, give them a lot of experiences moving and like taking risks with their bodies. Oh, and ladders. Ladders are a good thing to start working on the strength and coordination needed to get up. The whole time that you're working on gross motor skills, remember to let your child have the opportunity to get down from things instead of just kind of plucking them off something. If they need help, see if you can like guide their hips down, because it is an important skill to learn once you're up, how to get down. Tying into the gross motor things of just balance and moving that we just talked about is things to throw. So that's a really big category, but I'm kind of thinking like bean bags and smaller balls like tennis balls and like rings to do like a ring toss. They're working more on aiming stuff towards a target instead of just following a ball around. So to help develop gross motor, fine motor, and sensory skills needed for everything, a sensory bin is valuable, but also just sensory rich experiences. Thinking about sensory rich experiences outside, I'm talking about getting their hands in dirt and experimenting with adding water and making mud pies, sand, grass, leaves, rocks, acorns, pine cones, anything that they can touch, get dirty, smell, interact with. That's just going to be really good for their overall development. So those were outside sensory stuff. Inside, a sensory bin is perfect, especially for like if you can't get outdoors. I like sensory bins for 3 to 5 year olds because they are putting things in their mouth less. I really like sensory bins to help kids learn to open containers, so like little Tupperware things or bags, like or jars, working to screw and unscrew. I also really like those little, they look like scissors, but they have like a little sphere at the end, like a plastic sphere. So they work on the motion of opening and closing scissors, but they're actually like scooping like sand or pebbles and stuff. So I really like a toy like that. Sensory bins are also a perfect place to introduce tweezers, and tweezers are going to help them further develop the little tiny hand muscles that they need to do harder things eventually. So moving on to another category that I really like, which is just building stuff. Before, when they were a little younger, they might just be like building a pyramid with like large blocks and like a lot of knocking over too. But now they could be ready to build more with like Legos and bristle blocks, just regular wooden blocks, but smaller ones. Those magnet tiles are great. Construction toys really help them get an understanding of like physics and how things need to be so they don't topple over. They're really good for developing like imagination. You can pretend you're building like a zoo out of something, or you could build some sort of vehicles if that's what they're into. There's so many things that you can do with construction toys, things to build. At this age is also a really cool time to introduce those Velcro wooden fruit and vegetables. I really like that activity for developing the use of both hands because that's a skill that they're going to need for the rest of their life. They're going to get the motion down before they have like a sharp metal object in their hand. Between the ages of 3 to 5 is a good time to introduce a variety of household tools. So like those play screwdrivers or like a mallet or hammer, or like a small broom so they can help around the house, those handheld vacuums, just things like that. If your kid is interested in learning about things around the house, this is a great way to have them practice gross and fine motor skills while developing like general life skills. Like playing dress up is a good thing to do at this age. Again, not only is that perfect for their imagination and trying on literally different hats and trying on different roles, they're working on the strength and coordination to open Velcro and buttons and zippers and like a basic introduction to shoelaces. So maybe around closer to 4 to 5, they're tying the foundation knot. Like when you tie your laces, it's usually a big hit to help them get the movement down needed to put their shoe on without the challenge of trying their little tiny shoe, so they can put on their parent's shoe or like an older sibling's shoe. Going hand in hand with like dress up activities, the same idea applies to like dressing stuffed animals or dolls, whatever they're into. So we still have 2 more toys and activities to go over to help your 3 to 5 year old develop his gross and fine motor skills. But if you're liking this type of information and finding it useful, can you please let me know in the comments below what you're liking and what type of questions you have. So the second to last thing that I love as an early intervention occupational therapist are stickers. What I like to do with stickers is just like be silly, put them all over your body. You can also use like band-aids or use stickers pretending that they're band-aids, like owies all over their body so they can learn about body awareness. But also, like I said, reaching over across their body to take stickers off is a great way to develop their gross and fine motor skills. In addition to putting stickers on their body, they can work on peeling the stickers off and putting them on like a line. And at first, just horizontal lines, vertical lines, and then across, like them 2 together, a circle, a square. They need to understand the elements that make up letters to then be able to learn the letters. And then the last way to help your child develop his motor skills, especially fine motor, is having so many utensils around. We talked about the tweezers a little bit and the sensory bin, but I mean like all types of markers, like markers to draw with just on paper, markers to write on a whiteboard with. There's like those dot markers that look like bingo daubers. I really like those for these little hands. Of course, crayons, and I don't know if you've heard that little tip about making sure they're using broken crayons, because it really encourages these 3 little fingers to do the work and these other 2 to kind of be tucked away. That's going to be the most efficient way to hold a writing utensil if we're going a little DIY. Even just like drawing with a stick and sand or something is perfect. If they're learning like simple letters and what we call like pre-writing shapes on an iPad, make sure that they have a stylus in their hands. Pointing and swiping is not going to be the same as actually having something in their hands and learning the tiny, tiny movements needed to make those shapes. So I came up with this list just as a basic rundown on what to look for in your kid and how to help develop. But trust me when I say there are hundreds of thousands of ways to develop these skills. This is by no means an all-inclusive list. It's meant to be like a fast list. I hope you feel more confident in just looking around and seeing what you can throw together for your kid, because I feel like a lot of times the thing that you just throw together is like the biggest hit and something that you work so hard to make for them, or an expensive toy. You just never know if they're gonna like it or not. So I want to know, do you have any go-to activities that you use for your kids? I'm mostly talking about like homemade stuff, because I don't want you to feel that like, oh, I can't work on that until I buy this play structure or something. I want you to feel confident in using whatever you have. You have enough, but you have to use them in the right ways. If you've watched this video and still feel like your kid is struggling with fine or gross motor skills and you'd like a little more one-on-one help, and if you live in California and Texas, you are in luck, because I have my very own virtual occupational therapy early intervention private practice called Bright and Early OT. There's a link to a free consultation in the description below. You can also email me at christina@brightandearlyot.com, or you can give me a call at 619-631-5398. Thanks for dropping in and listening. Have a good rest of your day.